I'm looking at hypertext poetry, but I'm also looking at hypertext choose-your-own adventure games. Despite their different functions, I do think that the mechanism remains the same between them. The use of hyperlinks to tell a story and move through a space. I found a choose-your-own-adventure hyperlink game called You Are Jeff Bezos. I've been thinking about Jeff Bezos because I've been using Twitch to do long-form music streams, and I recently found out that Amazon owns Twitch. And that was a source of great comfort to sit on Twitch, play with Ableton, and have the mic on, have the webcam on, and talk to anyone visiting the chat, whether it was people I didn't know or people I did know. And ultimately, it made me just feel a little bit less blah during the second mega lockdown last year. Around the time of this discovery, Jeff Bezos and Amazon were on people's minds and continue to be on people's minds. The concept of a billionaire is terrifying because it highlights the dire state of wealth distribution around the world, particularly in the US, and this awareness can make you feel really powerless, so the only thing that you feel like you can do is to boycott any billionaire-owned operations. We could, for example, engage in alternative open source platforms and investigate their possibility for creating an online space, all the while negotiating this feeling of, I don't want to participate, but what I do want to participate in is making things and reaching out to people. For me, there is also this need to process a kind of cognitive dissonance between being online with other people but not physically being with other people. I believe this cognitive dissonance comes from the feeling of not being in the same room, despite our best efforts. I think one of the most exciting things about being online is anonymity, and it can be really powerful, but like any power, it can be abused. And this power certainly was abused in the internet folklore of Lambda servers, which was an MUD, a multi-user dungeon or multi-user dimension that was text-based, interactive, that anyone can join. And it's currently still active. It predates the social medias we know today, and in some ways was a precursor for codes of conduct in cyberspaces and the importance of those codes of conduct. In a particular incident, a user in the server created a sub-program that was a kind of voodoo doll sort of program, where in essence this user could possess other avatars of other users in the server and make them do or describe, because it's text-based, sexual violent acts. So there is this kind of power that can be abused in online spaces, even seemingly utopic spaces with lots of freedom and no regulation. And there's reasons for that freedom and there's reasons for no regulation. But it just highlights the power and responsibility that we all have to each other as human beings. Even in cyberspace, it's super important. Whether it's text-based or not, there is a responsibility that we have to each other to take care of each other. You Are Jeff Bezos made me think of the film Being John Malkovich. This film for me is an absurd romp through themes of layers of self, superego. The characters in the film, through a portal in an office building, sure, access the mind of John Malkovich and perform this kind of ventriloquist act. To me, there is a kind of an element of hauntological possession occurring, as the characters puppeteer another body through that body's world. As the author of a game, or as the e-poet of a hypertext poem, you are the puppeteer, and you choose where you take the participant. The bar to the left of our screen shows Jeff Bezos' net worth, and that number is responsive to what's happening in the game, and the choices that we make affect that number. That amount of money is pretty unfathomable, but the idea of wealth distribution is also fathomable, but it's not something that you can see or hold or comprehend. So in some ways you could say that wealth distribution is a kind of hyperobject, which is a term coined by Timothy Morton in their text of the same name, Hyperobjects, meaning a real event or phenomenon that is so vast that it is beyond human comprehension. For example, global warming. By prompting the player to make these decisions about what the money is spent on, it gives us more context for comprehending these billions. The hyperlink prompts us with real-life counterparts or actions that could cost a fraction of those billions as we chip away at Bezos' net worth. A simple game like this provides an opportunity for anyone playing to make an informed decision about where they stand and how they want to proceed. This hyperlink adventure style, it is quite poetic. We are being led down the garden path, as it were. It is like a poem in that we are being taken on a journey, and there is a story being told, And the history of net art includes so many hyperlink poets using this interface of clicking through links to create a ritual of movement. All the while, there is this kind of sense of someone pulling the strings. There is some mediating force at play. In some ways, as the poet or game designer, we have a kind of responsibility towards who we take down the garden path